Make sure your insurance doesn't come up short. Get gap cover with ALA. For more information, follow the links in the description. Hello everybody. If you recall, back before the dark times, you couldn't move online for sight of a BMW M140i. In this car, BMW created the near perfect recipe for petrolhead success. Big, meaty, 6-cylinder turbocharged engine with lots of power and, should you want it even more available, a choice of either petrolhead pleasing manual or daily usable and still excellent 8-speed ZF automatic, rear wheel drive, and all wrapped up in a fairly practical body shell. Then, the icing on the cake, you could have one for what felt like an impossibly low sum. I once got offered one for £350 down and £350 a month. Looking back on it, I don't think any of us realised quite how lucky we were, because we are unlikely to ever see this car's like again, and certainly not for that money. But the M140i was not a car without its flaws, and chief amongst them was the fact that this is a vehicle many regarded as having way too much engine for its chassis. In the dry, it was just about controllable. In the wet, near undrivable. And now today, you find me behind the wheel of one that has over 500 horsepower. This is going to be interesting. Now, we all know that big power and a low price is a combination for both hilarity and also misfortune. So, if you, after this review, find yourself headed towards the classifieds in search of your perfect quick BMW, don't forget to use CarVertical, the super-powered super search that will cross-reference a number of databases from around the globe to give you all the information you want to know on any potential used car purchase, including mileage discrepancies, accident damage, involvement in fire, theft, and things like outstanding finance. You need just a registration number or a VIN. It'll take only 60 seconds, and for 20% off the service, don't forget to use my discount code JayEmm. This car has been brought to me by the lovely Owen, who is a bit of a BMW fan and previously had an E46 M3, which was actually fairly kind to him up until the point where its subframe, which had already been repaired, decided to detach itself from the chassis while he was on the move. That was a fairly scary moment. Also, having acquired a dog, he wanted something that would give him the speed and hopefully the involvement of the M3, but with a bit of practicality. Budgetary constraints and a desire not to do the obvious thing also meant that he didn't want to go and buy an Audi RS4, RS6 or Mercedes C or E63 estate, and so he decided to buy this. He picked it up 3 years ago, entirely standard from a BMW main dealer, but decided along the way that rather than replace it, he'd simply improve it. And things may have gotten a little out of hand along the way, because in some cases he did replace things because they needed doing, and so he thought, well, while you're there, you may as well upgrade it. And then, as it often does with us petrol heads, things got a little bit spicy. What I love about this car, though, is that to look at it, for the uninitiated, this is a 120D. This is nothing special whatsoever. Looks like just about every other 1 Series you've ever seen. The only hint, if you could even call it that, of this car having anything even remotely special about it are the BMW M Performance tailpipes sticking out the back. That's it. It doesn't even sound particularly modified, but it is. What's he done to it? Well, I'll put the full list in the description down below, but in terms of chassis, it's got camber plates allowing you to get the adjustment that you really would expect from factory in anything with an M badge on, and yet BMW don't like to give you. It's got the Bird's B1 suspension setup, which is dampers and springs, as well as a geometry setup for the car. The rear subframe has then been solidly mounted, which is a thing that BMW do with their full-fat M cars, but not the M lights. However, the star attraction here is the engine, which in basic terms is unmodified. It is the regular B58. The internals have not been changed one bit, but it speaks volumes about the versatility and the durability of that engine, that this now makes 510 horsepower at the wheels and 700 newton meters of torque. That's 516 pounds-feet. Those are gains of some 200 horsepower and 200 newton meters over factory. To get it to those figures, the car has a hybrid turbocharger comprising of the factory manifold and housing, or part of it anyway, but new internals. It's a system called hypercore. I don't really know much about it, if I'm being entirely honest. Again, check the description down below for accurate comments. And the theory is that'll redistribute the car's power. Before, the B58 was legendary for its low down punch, which was the source of much amusement, but also the car's wayward reputation. It also has a sports catalytic converter and the aforementioned BMW axle-back exhaust. Naturally, it is also running a map, though not a custom one. Instead, it's an off-the-shelf item from MHD, which is designed to work with this sort of setup. And all of the work done to the car has been performed by a lovely chap called Jake at OJE Automotive down in Newbury. So, what's it like? Well, pootling along as I am now at about 45 miles an hour, you can certainly feel that the car is a lot stiffer than standard. From the passenger seat, when I went out for drive-bys a little while ago, it didn't feel this bad, but I suspect the lack of a second person in the car means it's now just that little bit more fidgety. This is going to make it interesting for when I need to put my foot down in a minute. But I have to say, the bouncing, very fidgety ride aside, the thing feels very mild-mannered, doesn't even really make too much noise. It's a very, very pleasant thing to be in. The 8-speed gearbox does its thing. It's all pretty good. But of course, you could say that of every M140i. Instead, you want to know what this one goes like. So, allow me to turn around and we shall find out. Now, I've got this car in its Sport Plus mode, which ordinarily I wouldn't do, but it does make the steering a little bit heavier, gives you a little bit more feedback. I am, however, going to put the gearbox into manual mode, giving me best control over the engine, and also allow me to tell you what it does, how it does it, and when it does it. First things first, response is incredible. Just at low RPM, gentle throttle applications, this thing has got a lot of go in it from the off. Probably not helped by the fact that in Sport Plus, throttle response is, well, it's not very linear. It's almost switch-like, which I'm generally not a fan of. The gearbox is absolutely sensational, always is. Oh, there is some go in this thing, I can tell you, but I've only just started to scratch the surface. Let's explore the depths. There's some go in this thing, I can tell you. Is it 550 horsepower, which is what it'd be at the flywheel if you adjust for it? And that torque figure? I'm not sure. Is it slow? No, not a bit of it. And I've got to say, at low speeds, this is not a pleasant car. Very fidgety, very, very bouncy. Get some pace behind it though, and it really does start to work. The steering is just not fantastic. The turn-in, it's a little bit delayed. Even in Sport Plus, with the minimal amount of assistance, you just don't get that much feedback from it. That really, I think, is what will hamper your progress. I gotta say, when I was watching the drive-bys, I thought that Owen was maybe going a little bit too hard, but no, he wasn't at all. He was being pretty sensible. That suspension is doing its job. What does worry me, though, is the tyres on this thing. Now, when he got it, BMW had very kindly put a brand new set of run flats on it. Naturally, they went in the bin first thing, and now it's got these Goodyears on. But at the back, they are just 245 section wide. And this is too much power for a tyre like that to cope with. Wow. This is awesome. I thought I wasn't going to like this, but it's blooming good. And I love the fact that he has retained the looks of it. Now, I just so happen to think that the M140i, this car's immediate predecessor, is a slightly better looking thing. I think it just has slightly sharper lines, got a bit more definition about it. And not that this is a bad looking thing, but I think it's just a touch more plain by comparison. Oh, nice. What a lovely day to be out in a vet. Engaging Sport Plus also enables BMW's MDM traction control mode, which is M dynamic mode, effectively a halfway house. So it'll let the car slip maybe a little bit more than full traction on wood, but it will still intervene if it thinks it's necessary. I've driven quite a few cars in this mode, including on track, and for performance driving, it does make a lot of sense. I am, however, always worried about the fact that this car now having vastly more power than it was meant to leave the factory with, the system wouldn't work as intended. But it does. Really, my big worry is at this kind of speed where you can see, I'm sure, that the car is pretty bouncy. I'm just worried that at some point it'll lift a wheel, and if I've got my foot in, if the system can't react quick enough, well, I could have a bad old day. But the more I drive it, the more faith I have in it. Not going to put my foot down in a bend because I'm not a complete and total moron, but on the exit of a corner, wow. Oh yeah, it does follow the camber a little bit. But let's try for a minute to ignore that bombastic engine, shall we? And instead talk about the chassis. Because here I think some real magic has been worked too. It is, even at say 50-60 mile an hour, still just a little bit bouncy. Annoyingly, it only becomes truly happy when you've got it under load and it starts to squat down a little bit. That steering also, it's just a bit vague. And that's a shame, because it does feel like the chassis has genuinely been improved. Day to day, I don't think I could live with this. I think I get very bored of it very quickly. But for a bit of fun, works brilliantly. Back to the engine though, and I've got to give special mention to the fact it's just so smooth and linear in the way it delivers its power. I was really worried with it having a different turbo and those big numbers that it'd be even spikier than the regular car. It's not. I think it really is more drivable. Not that it's a vehicle you should ever disrespect, that's for sure. I know it might sound a little bit daft, but I was genuinely nervous about today's review, because though I drive cars with this kind of power all the time, there is a big difference between a car that left the factory with 550 horsepower and one that left the factory with 340 horsepower and now has 550. And the last time I went to review a B58 engine BMW, well, it didn't go so well. However, I am utterly and totally delighted that my fears were unfounded. This is a really well-behaved car, and Owen is a lovely chap too. I do worry though that I think he may have rather ruined himself, because I can think of a lot of cars out there for this kind of money. Let's just call this a £30,000 car, because if he looks at his expenditure, that's roughly what it owes him. Today you could pick one of these up for somewhere in the mid-teens, and it's got about £12,000 worth of stuff bolted to it. And for that sum, you can find stuff that will be more interactive, more exciting, more engaging, more of a driver's car. But you're gonna struggle to find much that's this quick for that kind of money. He said maybe the obvious next step is a Panamera Sport Turismo, but they're lots of cash. Same goes for a Ferrari FF, although those are the ultimate fast wagon. I think perhaps the car that to me would make sense to go to after this would be the E63 estate with the 5.5 litre bi-turbo. That's an awesome thing. Nice inside, will feel like a bit of an upgrade over this, although it is a slightly older car. However, that engine is an utter and total powerhouse. From the factory, it'll show this engine a thing or two, and then should you want to take that even further, you can, though heaven help you if you do. And if you, like me, remember the YouTube scene way back when you couldn't move for these things and every single week Joe Achilles was taking a new one down to Motec, well, you'll recall that there are 101 different ways you can modify them, which is also unfortunately part of their downfall, because with them being cheap, powerful, rear-wheel drive and easily moddable, a lot of them met a bad end. And this means that though the prices have depreciated, the cost of insurance has not. And this is not the kind of car that you'd want an inexperienced driver behind the wheel of, because it can and will go wrong. However, if you know what you're doing, and if you have a little bit of self-control, this is a mighty thing, and available at not very much money. I also adore its Q-Car status, and having sampled a number now of modified M135 and 140s, this is the best of all of them. That's not what I expected. But you know what? Sometimes I do love a good surprise. And that's what I've had today. So, I want to say a big thank you to Owen for bringing his car out, and as ever, to you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.